Benson Rioba opens our coverage with a GMO story.
Scientists from Tegemeo Institute and Root to Food want the government to hold consultative sessions on health safety concerns surrounding genetically modified crops before imported GMO food hit the Kenyan shelves.
People say that GM causes cancer. There is nowhere in the world that a study has actually shown that to be true. And the study that did that, they did that by falsifying data. It was later discredited. Unfortunately, countries like Kenya had already gone ahead and done the ban. We need to provide people with the correct information.
Hatutaki ban iliftiwe. We want the effort of the peasant farmers na wakulima wadogo kukua recognized. Tunataka pia wajue hizi mbegu za kienyeji sisi wakulima wadogo tunapanda, it's the only way to curb climate change.
Are we happy? If Kenyans say that they are happy about this decision, and if they were asked in a public participation process, I'm sure they will say they are not. But if there is a public participation process that is robust enough to come to a conclusion that Kenyans want to consume GMOs, then we can only wait to see the impacts later on.
Root to Food wants all studies on GMO foods to be reviewed and used to draft regulations on genetically modified foods. Tegemeo Institute is rooting for a policy that will ensure food with traces of GMOs are clearly labeled to ensure consumers make informed decisions.
But now, because it's something that it's, people are a bit scared, then we need like standards agreed by KNBS, so that if somebody has used a GM in raw material, in terms of processing of its flour, then in that flour they should say that they have used a GM of product and what GM product they have used.
Consumers are not only interested in the price of maize flour. That is a lie. Consumers are actually interested in eating food that is safe, eating food that they accept, eating food that is culturally acceptable to them, religiously accepted to them, food that they own.
This, alongside setting of the national GMO purity percentage to control imports, is expected to go a long way in mainstreaming GMO products in the country's food chain.
Gives you GMO ugali and ugali that is not GMO. I don't think there's anyone who will go for the GMO ugali, given options. What we are seeing here is a situation where we are put in a box, where we are not given an option to decide, and we are being told this has been decided for you.
The government has been encouraged to consider a subsidy program for GMO seeds that might be out of reach for many local farmers, exposing them to unfair competition from products from developed nations.
That lifting of the ban is not about us. It's not about our farmers. It's not about the East African community that we are working so hard, to expand and bring other countries on. It's not about us. This is about American farmers and the American market.
That introduction of GMOs is going to solve the problem of hunger. Because if that was the case, why is it that countries like South Africa that has gone fully GMO are still facing hunger?
Creation of an indigenous seed bank has been backed to protect traditional food crops from extinction when the GMO food crops are ingrained in the country's food system.
Let us have a discussion on how do we protect and ensure that we do not deteriorate or degrade the indigenous varieties. But if it's economics, if it makes economic sense for farmers, farmers will plant. I don't think there's a farmer today who will plant GMO just to be seen that is planting GMO. They'll only plant it because it makes economic sense.
Benson Rioba reporting for Prime Edition.
Now that conversation on the GMO still ongoing. Now, the August House is in session after plenary sittings kicked off Tuesday in the afternoon, and the National Assembly Speaker Moses Wetangula set in motion the process of reintroducing pending bills from the 12th Parliament, while the Senate has begun considering the President's address after settling the House leadership. Here is that report.
Tuesday afternoon, and the bicameral parliament kicked off its plenary sittings.
I, Crystal Kegei Asige.
Nominated Senator Crystal Asige took oath of office. Thereafter, senators embarked on approving nominees to the House Business Committee.
I, Mohammed Tobi Bidu.
At the National Assembly, Isiolo South Member of Parliament Tobi Mohammed was sworn into office. Afterwards, Speaker Moses Wetangula issued a raft of guidelines, even as the leadership of majority and minority party in the House remains unresolved.
Once the cabinet and principal secretaries are fully in place, the House calendar becomes crowded with majority and minority party businesses.
Deputy Speaker Gladys Shelei will undertake the functions of the majority leader for the time being. Speaker Wetangula, at the same time, gave a lifeline to pending bills by encouraging members to take advantage of the amended Standing Order 114A subsection 1.
The first category relates to the expedited introduction of bills that were passed by the House in the last Parliament but lapsed in the Senate. The second category allows consideration of bills which had gone beyond second reading. Honourable members, under the new procedure, these bills can now be republished in the same form as initially passed by the House and are exempted from pre-publication scrutiny.
Kamche Menza for Prime Edition.
Now, there is this row over which party or coalition in the National Assembly should be identified as the majority party. That row sparking intense debate, with legislators who ditched Azimio maintaining that they are members of Kenya Kwanza, even though the coalition agreement requires them to only quit 3 months after the election. Some of them stated that they had quit Azimio before the election. Speaker Moses Wetangula also rejected as inadmissible a document tabled by Azimio La Umoja Secretary General Junet Mohammed as the coalition's agreement with its members' parties. At the Senate, Speaker Amason Kingi refused to recognize UDM party senators as members of Azimio La Umoja.
A sitting of the National Assembly was a face-off between Azimio La Umoja One Kenya Coalition Party and Kenya Kwanza Alliance, as members argued over which should be the designated majority party.
Well, there seems to be some problems there with the voice in that clip, but we do know that in Nyeri earlier on, President William Ruto said that he will work tirelessly to transform Kenya and that no section will be left behind. He made those remarks in Nyeri, as I mentioned, during the burial of Deputy President's elder brother Jackson Reriani Gachagua. The head of state hailed Mount Kenya, saying that their contribution in August 9th general poll changed the dynamics in Kenya, barring the politics of tribalism and cronism that has mirrored the Kenyan society. Timothy Kipnusu is our man on that story.
President William Ruto was in Nyeri for the burial of Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua. Elder brother called for total cooperation between the three arms of government, saying no development can be realized if each works in isolation.
Tuko na executive, tuko na legislature na tuko na mahakama zetu. Mimi naomba sisi wote tushirikiane ili tuweze kutekeleza yale yatakayofaa wananchi wa taifa letu la Kenya.
The president promising to work tirelessly to transform Kenya, promising that his administration will not segregate any part of Kenya. Ruto lauding Mount Kenya region for setting the record by changing the politics of the country, saying the 2022 election has shown that Kenya has matured democratically.
We have set a new standard for ourselves as a nation, that we have changed our politics from the politics rallied around ethnicity to the politics about issues and about a plan. And today, Kenya has earned a place of respect in the community of nations as a country that can prosecute its affairs on issues and have peaceful elections where we vote and the next day we can go back to work.
The head of state challenging elected leaders to now focus on delivering on their mandate and stop politicking.
Wakati tumeenda uchaguzi, wananchi wa Kenya wametekeleza wajibu wao. sisi tumepata, MCA amepata, wananchi wamepata nini? Hawa wananchi wanangojea sasa tutimize upande wetu.
He said his government will not continue with the appetite of borrowing, but instead focus on ways to turn around the economy.
Ile budget tuko nayo sasa inatufanya tukope karibu shilingi bilioni 900. Na hiyo kukopa lazima tuanze kuipunguza kwa sababu tunaweka madeni makubwa kwa wananchi wa taifa letu la Kenya.
Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua promised to support the president in delivering on the promises they made to Kenyans during the campaign period.
My family is of the opinion, and rightly so, that electing President William Ruto is not enough. President William Ruto must succeed and turn around this country. So I want to confirm to you, sir, that whatever duties you give me, I'll implement them with military precision. I'll be there and I'll do whatever you tell me to do so that this country that is pregnant with expectation, the people of this country, Your Excellency, have such high hope in your leadership.
Timothy Kipnoso for Prime Edition.
Well, a somber mood engulfed Regina Cheli Catholic Church in Karen right here in Nairobi during a requiem mass for the late lawyer Paul Gicheru. In their tributes, his widow Ruth Gicheru and children shared fond memories of a husband and a father who sacrificed a lot for the sake of his family. Colleagues and friends eulogized him as a humble and selfless man who meant good for everybody. The late Gicheru died last Monday, September the 26th, 2022, and will be laid to rest on Thursday of October the 6th, 2022 in Bahati in Nakuru County. At the time of his death, he was awaiting the ruling of his case at the International Criminal Court.
On Monday, before you went to be with the Lord, you held my hand and said to me, "Nobody will ever separate us." Very unexpected at that moment. That made me wonder if God sends messages to the people He's calling. It is very hard for me to accept that you're no longer here.
We will miss you dearly and treasure all our memories together, but you'll always be with us in everything that we do. And also, God, we love you, Dad, and we hope to see you again.
And so he was truly a people's person. He was humble to a fault. He had an interesting way of pronouncing your names and talking to you. And, he would really make you feel at home.
So I've come to say Pole. And what that gentleman from the UK said, I think we should all heed what he said. That if we are true friends of Paul, we stand with the family.
May the God of all consolation bless you, for in his unfathomable goodness he created the human race. And in the resurrection of his only begotten Son, he has given believers the hope of rising again.
A driver and a tout of the Mboya Sacco Matatu have been charged at the Makadara Law Courts following a traffic violation incident on Monday, the 3rd October 2022. You remember that video, really trending. Evans Musher, and Ronald Katana appeared before Resident Magistrate Mercy Kivutithe. Muchemi pleaded guilty to one of the 4 charges, while Katana pleaded guilty to all the 3 charges. Yusuf Farah reports.
On Tuesday, October 4th, 2022, Evans Mushemi and Ronald Katana appeared before Makadara Law Courts Resident Magistrate Mercy Kivuti. Mushemi, the driver of the Mboya Sacco Matatu, faced 4 counts: reckless driving, failure to wear public service vehicle uniform, failure to exhibit a recent photograph of himself, and driving a motor vehicle with some parts and equivalent not properly maintained. He only pleaded guilty to the second charge. The hearing of his case has been scheduled for November 3rd, 2022.
So the accused is sentenced to pay a fine of 10,000 shillings in each count, in default 3 months imprisonment in each count, and the sentences shall run consecutively, right of appeal of 14 days.
On the other hand, the tout Ronald Katana pleaded guilty to riding in a dangerous position, failure to wear public service vehicle uniform, and operating a vehicle on the road without a prescribed badge. He was handed a 10,000 shilling fine for each count, or an equivalent of 3 months in jail. Mushemi and Katana were charged a day after a video in which two touts were displaying dangerous acrobatic antics while in a moving vehicle went viral on social media. The National Police Service has since warned public service vehicle operators to instill discipline among crew and comply with traffic regulations. Yusufar reporting for Prime Edition.
Very talented guys. All right, let's take our first break here on KBC Prime Edition. We will be back shortly. Stay with us.
Kuja pamoja na ndugu yangu Uhuru Kenyatta, tumeongea kwa kirefu na tumekubaliana ya kwamba tunataka kuunganisha Kenya iwe taifa moja. Na tumesema mgawanyiko ambayo imekuwako tangu uhuru mpaka leo itakwisha hapa na sisi. Na kutoka hapa tunataka kuunganisha taifa la Kenya ili tutembee pamoja kama watu moja. Hiyo ndio sababu ya sisi kukuja pamoja hapa siku ya leo. And we say that the divide ends here, beginning the process of building the bridge that binds Kenya together. Yes, where we are.
Kupata Zaburi 18 mstari wa pili, dial star 811 star 817 hash. Mwenyezi Mungu ni mwamba wangu, ngome yangu na mkombozi wangu, Mungu wangu, mwamba wangu ninayemkimbilia ninapohitaji kuwa salama. Zaburi 18 mstari wa pili. Zaburi 18 mstari wa pili, dial star 811 star 817 hash. Star 811 star 817 hash.
At KBC Channel 1, we put people at the heart of events with our captivating weekly news features. Every day, we are breaking new grounds with informative, entertaining, and inspiring human interest stories. On Mondays, 9 p.m., we have The Cabinets. Tuesday, 9 p.m., we get inside the barracks for military tales. We delve in the world of cinemas and theater each Wednesday night. For the young and industrious, make a date with us every Thursday at 9 p.m. Fridays are dedicated for my culture. On Saturdays, we go back in time for history in perspective. And on Sundays, we get to know the process of how things are done and made. KBC Channel 1 News features a whole lot of wonderful viewing experience.
Welcome back to KBC Prime. Now, that row over which party or coalition in the National Assembly being identified as the majority, we will be revisiting that story shortly after we move into the corridors of justice, where former National Olympics Committee of Kenya official Stephen Soi will on the 24th of November know the fate of his appeal against conviction for misappropriation of funds in the Rio Olympics. Soi had appealed against the 15-year jail term or a 150 million shilling fine slapped on him, citing lack of proof on all counts for which he was convicted. Meanwhile, Magistrate Eunice Nyotu has directed that Tuko News editor be held in custody for 5 days without any fine for contempt of court. This and more from the corridors of justice.
The former National Olympics Committee of Kenya official Stephen Soi, who was convicted in September 2021 to 15 years in jail or pay a fine of 115 million shillings over misappropriation of funds and abuse of office in the Rio Olympics scandal, has faulted the judgment of the lower court and urged the High Court to set it aside, claiming lack of evidence against him. In the appeal, Soi says he was even convicted on 2 counts for which he was not charged. He further said he was not to blame for the cancellation of tickets as his name was not in the contract on procurement of tickets. Soi further said there was no evidence of him improperly conferring benefits to his seniors, adding that he was not in the country at the time the alleged offence occurred. However, the Office of the Director of Public Prosecution opposed the appeal and urged Judge Esther Maina to uphold the judgment. The determination of the appeal will be made on the 24th of November 2022.
Now that is what you should be submitting before the High Court. Yes.
Meanwhile, Magistrate Eunice Nyotu has ordered a news editor from Tuko News to be held in custody for 5 days without a fine for contempt after he failed to apologize for alleged misreporting in a story. She also rejected the editor's application to stay the court's orders for 24 hours to allow them to get orders from a higher court. Abdulkhair Mohammed for Prime Edition.
Well. Siaya County government has heightened surveillance on Ebola and established screening points as a contingency measure in curbing its spread. The County Executive Committee member for Health, Dismas Odhiambo Wakla, said that the screening points will be at Sega and Ogunja townships, that's along Busia-Kisumu Highway, which is a major trade route, by the way, to Uganda, that's grappling with an outbreak of the Ebola disease. This, even as 4 people have been reported to have recovered from Ebola Sudan strain that is in Uganda.
With the outbreak of Ebola virus in neighboring Uganda and the porous nature of the Kenya-Uganda border, counties next to the border have been asked to be on high alert. Addressing the media in Siaya town, the County Executive Committee member for Health, Dismas Odhiambo Wakla, said they have intensified surveillance across Lake Victoria's islands and beaches and screening points erected as a precautionary measure in combating the deadly virus.
We have activated all our rapid response teams at county, sub-county, but we want to take it, we are cascading it down to technical working groups at the wards, dealing with surveillance, which is basically tracing any cases or suspected cases that may be in our midst.
Siaya County Disease Surveillance Coordinator Eunice Oreri appealed to the public to work closely with health personnel and other government officials to keep the deadly Ebola virus at bay.
My call to action for the people of Siaya is to encourage them that in any case they see or hear of a suspected person exhibiting signs of Ebola viral disease, then we encourage them to report through the nearest health facility and even through the county emergency response number.
Siaya is among the 20 counties placed at high risk of Ebola virus infection. Opicho Chemtai for Prime Edition.
Now, a section of leaders from Wajir and Mandera counties are expressing fears of high levels of illiteracy in the region because of acute teachers shortage. Led by Wajir South Member of Parliament Mohammed Ado and his Mandera South counterpart Abdul Haro, the leaders claim that if the Teachers Service Commission does not address the pressing issue urgently, the burden of illiteracy in the region could haunt this country in the future.
Non-local teachers who secured employment in northeastern counties left the region over insecurity 2 years ago, creating a crisis in the education sector.
A school that had maybe 10 teachers, 12 teachers, 15 teachers, but now only 1 is remaining. Now that for me is another level of criminality And I don't know why the Teacher Service Commission has done that.
Despite the commission re-advertising for the position for 325 teachers in the area to fill the vacancy left, only 4 teachers from the region qualified, and all those enlisted were non-locals.
We want our teachers to go back and teach the students. We are seeing a situation where we have an entire lost generation coming out of northeastern Kenya. The other day, I was in a school in my constituency. Class 5 students walked into the class and asked the students in English, "Where is your father?" None of them understood it. None of them understood it.
We are also not going to be very conflictual with TSC, but we will tell TSC in no certain terms that we want to be treated equally like the other Kenyans. The question of universal education for all children. These children, for heaven's sake, are Kenyans. If they remain illiterate, it is a certain percentage of Kenya which remains illiterate, and it becomes a burden to this country in future.
The situation compelling a section of leaders from Wajir and Mandera counties to blame the Teacher Service Commission for failing to tailor the recruitment to suit the marginalized regions based on prevailing circumstances. Wajir South Member of Parliament Mohammed Ado and his Mandera South Abdul Haro are expressing fears that if left unchecked, the school dropouts could be fodder for radicalized group to enlist members.
We have a big problem in northern Kenya, and there is a very big need to address it. Let all those concerned take care of it.
Any policy to be changed right now is the policy in the recruitment of teachers that does not desegregate northeastern Kenya from the rest of the country.
The leaders are instead proposing a policy tailor-made to the region in the recruitment of teachers to save the education from sinking further in northern Kenya.
Siaya Governor James Agre Bob Orengo has sent the county secretary and all chief officers on compulsory leave. According to Orengo, the move will pave way for an independent audit of the country's financial transactions and human resource. Orengo further overhauled the finance as well as the economic department, even as he unveiled a task force to audit the financial systems of that county.
I therefore wish to give the following directives. Number 1, the county secretary and all the county chief officers are ordered to proceed on compulsory leave.
Siaya Governor James Orengo on Tuesday sent all chief officers and the county secretary on compulsory leave. Speaking during the inauguration of an audit task force chaired by former Auditor General Edward Ouko, Orengo said the action has been taken to create an enabling environment for the task force to execute its mandate alongside other investigative agencies. Orengo further announced a mini reshuffle of the cabinet.
And will enable the Controller of Budget and Auditor General to enter into the fray as the constitutional organs mandated to ensure that there is expenditure control and transparency.
Meanwhile, professionals from Bonchari constituency have singled out improvement of road infrastructure, education and health as the main challenges in Kisii County. Speaking during a development forum, the professionals led by West Mugirango Member of Parliament Stephen Mogaka, they said efforts should be made to improve fortunes of farmers in the agricultural rich area. Elsewhere, Embu County Campus Students Organization is calling on the government to take stern action against those still practicing female genital mutilation in the county. The students say despite measures taken to curb the vice, the practice is still prevalent in the region.
These people, either they are damaged in some way, others will find they can't even concentrate in schools. So we ask the government of Kenya, in collaboration with the county government of Embu, to take action in those areas where FGM is practiced. And students in Githithia Girls High School in Lari Sub-County in Kiambu County are counting losses after a fire broke out in one of the dormitories and destroyed valuables. No casualties were reported. Parents are now calling on relevant authorities to expedite investigation into the cause of the fire.
Kuna hata mzazi hata mmoja ameona mtoto yake, na sisi tushakuja, watoto wetu wako huku, tunashindwa what is going on.
kile kitu tungetaka, kitu ya kwanza tunataka mwalimu mkuu aje atuongeleshe. Pili, hatujajua shida iliyoko kwa hii shule, sababu shule imechomeka, hatuambiwi ni nini, hatuna ripoti yoyote. Kwa hivyo sisi tuko na shida mingi kabisa.
Finally, a section of leaders from different political parties in Meru County have agreed to bury their political differences and support the current government. According to the leaders, the move will ensure Meru residents benefit from the Kenya Kwanza leadership.
Mheshimiwa Rais aweze kuweka serikali yake imara, tuweze kufanywa kazi, maasura waweze kuinuka.
President saw it important to appoint them in our region, I think, or from our region, because they are good leaders, and he has fulfilled what he promised us during his campaign time.
The legends and familiar charms will grace KBC once again.
That woman Noria is evil. She wanted to kill the children, and when Alfonso saw her, he ran towards her to stop her, and then she killed him.
I want to see him right now. No one can see him for the moment, Mao.
Oh my goodness, I hope Grandpa will be saved.
That's why I'm letting you know that I'll just stay here for a few more months. I'm going with her and I won't come back.
Well, you're not as stupid as you look.
I'd like to pull out at once. Everything I feel. But I couldn't.
I don't understand why I have to defend and protect a murderer.
Felix is not a murderer.
And you? Are you one?
Me?
Yes.
But you shouldn't have the slightest doubt that my dad has to die.
Well, just before we cross over to the day and take a look at the day's business, let's see what's on tonight's Military Tales. Sergeant retired John Ngugi Kamau, a former Kenyan long-distance runner, one of the greatest across-country runners of all time, and a 5-time World Cross-Country champion. By the way, this week on Military Tales, Nise Imano focuses on the retired military officer.
John Ngugi Kamau had no idea that he would venture into athletics.
Kajo ilikuwa inaorganize bio hizi, inatupatia karai, ukikimbia unapatia karai ama blanket, alafu ikanipatia morale.
Training camps were then organized in Nyahururu, and he, Ngugi, was able to come face to face with national athletic celebrities of the time.
Tukawa tunakutana na watu kama Henry Rono na Maina Boy, Rate Maina Boy na kina Atuti. Ikawa sasa wakati hiyo dina mimi nikatamani kukimbia kama hawa, kwa vile nilikuwa naona wengine wakiwa na magari hapo, nikaona mimi naweza kimbia hata mimi nipate kagari.
Shortly after, by a twist of fate, Ngugi met a stranger that would help him realize this dream.
Kwa meja mwingine alikuwa anaitwa Meja Ngoro, akachukua mimi akaniambia hii mtu ni masura amekosa. Akaniandikia masura baiti moja na nyama. Wakati nilikula sasa, nikaanza mazoezi kali. Wakaona hii kijana wanaweza kimbia. Wakati waliona anaweza kimbia, wakanishukua sasa in 1983.
But even as a sportsman, he was still expected to perform his military duties.
Wakati tumemaliza sport, tunaenda duty kama kushuka main gate, kama kwenda exercise za kijeshi, kama ni operation kidogo.
His progress as an athlete was steady, winning his first gold medal in 1985 in Cairo in the 1500 meters men's race.
Kutoka hapo sasa nikawa the first Kenyan to win World Cross Country 1986. kule kunaitwa New Switzerland. Kutoka hapo 1987 nikawa tena nimewin another world cross country.
In 1987, he won again in the 5,000 meters race in the All-African Games held in Kenya.
Mimi nikakisha mwenge, alafu nikaenda nikapatia Moi mwenge, akaniambia vile umelete mwenge wa kuhakisha nini, mimi nataka ulete ngurudi. Wakati nilishinda nikaambia niende tukule pamoja naye. Sasa hiyo nilikuwa kofru, nikapatio seniors, nikapatio sergeant.
Shortly after 1988, he won another gold medal in the 5,000 meters race in Seoul, South Korea.
Race ya mwisho ilikuwa Boston 1992 World Cross Country.
In 1993, his running career was prematurely brought to a halt, having won a total of 5 gold medals for Kenya.
Ninakumbuka timu ya mzungu hiyo ilikuwa inaitwa John Bigot. Walianza kusumbuana kwa vile na Direct Kenya wakati hiyo ile ilikuwa kwa vile John Bigot alikuwa anaitishwa pesa na hawa, naye wakasema hawezi patia hawa pesa kwa vile anapatia sisi pesa. Wakati dumebiri inapigana sasa, ikawa mimi, unajua nyasi ndio inaumia. Watu wale walikuwa nakimbia kwa John Bigot, wakataswa kwenda huko na hiyo John Bigot yapanwe kukuja kuchukua wachezaji wa Kenya.
Relief came after he won the tribunal.
Wetangula hiyo maneno alipeleka bunge, kauliza kwa nini John anaenda kubaniwa na John alikuwa nakimbilia Kenya.
After the tribunal, Ngugi demanded a $1 million compensation to recover what he had spent on the case, but that has never come to fruition.
Hiyo manager wangu alitisha $1 million kwa vile hawa ndio walikuwa na makosa. Ikawa sasa hawa wakasema hawana hiyo pesa, iwezi patio mtu kama mimi.
When the dust settled, Ngugi tried to make a comeback, but it proved difficult.
Niliendelea na military, lakini nilirudi pia kwa bio na nikaanza kukimbia nje kidogo, lakini ikawa ni ngumu sana kurudi ile form nilikuwa nayo.
But Ngugi says he has no regrets looking back. He joined the Kenya Veterans for Peace Association and is thankful for seminars that are held to educate athletes on the effect of drugs and the importance of discipline and honest hard work.
Also had run 13 minutes and 15 seconds.
In the athletic world, John Ngugi Kamau is considered among Africa's greatest athletes. He has served in the Kenyan military for 18 years, retiring in the year 2000 from the Kenya Army as a senior sergeant. Reporting for KBC from Nairobi County, I'm Nisi Emano.
Does he really love me? It really seems that he does. What should I do?
He just left. He left again? For Green Hill?
If I hadn't seen it with my own eyes, I wouldn't have believed it. We look so much alike. Betsy, is that why you allow me to stay? Do you have any idea why Echo has continued avoiding all of you for all these years?
I wish I could tell you.
This is getting interesting. Of all days to visit, we sure picked a good one.
I'm longing to see you. I want to know how you've been doing over yonder. I'm gonna catch this flight, and when I reach my destination,
the road is long, but yes I know, got to reach an end. Here and I can't stop the rest. I've got to be.
A very good evening to you. Thank you for keeping it Prime Edition here on Channel 1. Time to get the latest in the world of business. My name is Betty Kiptum. Just 100 importers have complied with the requirement to file the details of goods being shipped in ahead of the January 2023 deadline. Industrialization and Trade Cabinet Secretary Betty Maina says the Anti-Counterfeit Amendment Bill 2021 before Parliament seeks to make it mandatory for those importing goods to register their intellectual property in a move geared at protecting consumers and stemming counterfeiting.
The latest National Baseline Survey on Counterfeiting and Illicit Trade indicates that the magnitude of illicit trade in Kenya is valued at over 800 billion shillings annually, and currently the country is losing about 100 billion shillings to counterfeiting activities every year.
One of the things we are now working on is ensuring there is greater collaboration between the rights holders and government by demanding recordation.
In 2019, the government amended the 2008 Anti-Counterfeit Act by introducing mandatory requirement to record intellectual property rights for goods being imported into Kenya with the Anti-Counterfeit Agency.
I can say we are at 100 companies that have so far recorded with us, but we know that this is going to increase as we push forward through awareness, because we're also creating awareness among the importers.
The Anti-Counterfeit Amendment Bill of 2021 before Parliament seeks to make it mandatory for an importer to register details of the goods in a move expected to enhance consumer protection and stem counterfeiting.
We acknowledge that the communication between rights holders and the enforcement authorities is very important. And for this you need a database. This is being built up now. And what we are doing, we are trying to exchange now experiences between the jurisdictions that have done so already on the continent.
The deadline for the commencement of recordation was initially set at 1st of July this year, but has been extended by 6 months to the 1st of January 2023. Regina Manyara reporting for Prime Edition.
Now, buy now, pay later is the biggest attraction for investors looking into Kenyan fintechs, and digital payment platforms are being urged to adopt this model of operation. Payment Innovation Jury Chairperson John Chaplin says the level of credit loss from digital payment services are too high, and ensuring there is a middle ground for transaction confirmation would mitigate this.
Payment innovations and technology advancements in Africa comes as a close second to Asia, with the African electronic payment space growing at the rate of 40% annually. The Payment Innovation Jury, comprising of global payment industry experts and policymakers, say investors are looking into payment technology that allows for interoperability and seamless transactions between mobile phone platforms and financial institutions.
Here in Africa, because I think first of all mobile money has an incredibly important part to play, and cards are also here very important as well. So what we found in the jury is that it's unlikely to be the market is unlikely to be dominated by account-to-account payments, as some people would say, and in fact we're going to see mobile money, we're going to see account-to-account, and we're going to see cards with the use determined by really what the customer needs.
We have seen a very high adoption of the digital solutions in the region, and this is a big opportunity, and that's why our connection with mobile money players and then banking partners is accelerating the digitalization, and this is where we are bringing our added value.
They say a lack of symmetry between payment service providers are adding to the immense credit losses the industry is facing.
There's a lot more that can be done, and that's where we come up and we say we could fill the gap. We could enable the banks, enable the microfinance SACCOs and digital payment providers.
This is an ecosystem, and then with all these elements we described, I think this will be very useful, and this is helping a lot.
They're pushing for a centralized format where countries could reduce or do away with transaction costs, which holds back customers looking into having a digital wallet. And for digital payment platforms, the jury advises that they gain the trust of customers in order to grow to a global scale. Ibak Said for Prime Edition.
Thank you, Hibak, for that report. Now, over 800 delegates from 78 countries are set to converge in Nairobi for the International Association of Science Parks and Areas of Innovation World Conference. The Konza Technopolis Development Authority Chief Executive Director, Engineer John Tanui, says winning the bid to host the 2024 conference will enhance attention and focus on Kenya's innovation industry and significantly aid transformation of the country.
Data from the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics shows that the value addition in the ICT sector stood at 294 billion shillings in 2021, registering a 30% rise from 223 billion shillings in 2017. This indicates that Kenya has in the past decade made significant strides in ICT infrastructure, positioning the country as a leading tech hub in the region.
We are very excited with the confidence that the community of science parks across the world chose to have its 2024 World Conference here in Kenya. This is quite exciting for us and the entire science community, and also the innovation aspects of our country are going to transform.
Incidentally, the Kenya National Digital Master Plan 2022-2032 targets spending 585 billion shillings in the sector over the next 10 years in areas such as fintech. Kenya won the vote to host the conference through a secret ballot during the IASP Full Members General Assembly in Sevilla, Spain. KOTDA will host the conference at both the Kenyatta International Convention Center and Konza Technopolis, bringing together over 800 delegates from 301 science parks located in 78 countries.
Hosting this community or network of science parks is going to be very impactful to our country. We are going to be able to bring the best minds to visit Kenya. We are able to connect the science community in our country, and it will actually bring a new change in the science technology space of our country.
The event is set to bring key networking opportunities for Kenyan universities, resulting in establishment of more science parks and areas of innovation. Alanoko, Prime Edition.
Now, the Ministry of Agriculture has handed over the project sites to contractors of Phase 2 of a small irrigation and value addition project to Tana River County. The 300 million shillings project involves construction of 3 water pans, drilling and equipping of 8 boreholes, fencing and reseeding of pasture grounds. Take a look.
Speaking during the implementation of water irrigation project in Tana River County, Small Irrigation and Value Addition Project Manager Engineer Omari Josephat said, at the end of the project, the government will have injected close to $500 million shillings in the project. Beneficiaries are set to increase food production as drought continues to ravage the region. The Small Irrigation and Value Addition Project aims at reducing poverty by enhancing agricultural productivity, income and food security in the 11 counties. The farmers used to rely on runoff water for their vegetable farming, which have been hampered by drought.
Haya mashamba ambao yako hapa sahihi ni mashamba ambayo huwa tunatumia maji ya mto yakifurika na mvua si sana, na kulingana huu mradi tena, huu mradi uko juu, tumeweka juu kwa sababu kutoroka mafuriko, juu mafuriko yanatuharibia mimea yetu, na kulingana na ufugaji pia nyasi huwa zinakosekana kama hakuna mvua. Tunapata nyasi tu wakati ambao kuna mafuriko.
Meanwhile, Kenya has acquired additional electronic seals as cargo business booms in Mombasa Port. The Kenya Ports Authority has increased its electronic seals for cargo tracking from about 8,000 to 14,400 in anticipation for increased activities at the port of Mombasa. KRA Southern Region Coordinator Joseph Tanui said there were some challenges in terms of the number of seals, which was causing a bit of delays at the port.
We have the electronic cargo tracking system, which is not a Kenyan system, it's for all the countries within the region. And the issue is to monitor trade across the corridor. If it's going to Uganda, it's a digital system where we can be able to view the trucks on their journey to the destination. And in case if they deviate from the normal routes, then we are able to flag it out and take an enforcement action. Because if goods are dumped in our country and they were meant for Uganda, then we are losing taxes for our country.
Tanui said that KRA has also developed an online system for allocating the seals, moving away from the manual process, which he said was prone to corruption.
And that's all we had for you on in the world of business. Sports news is coming up with Richard Munga, who is standing by on the other side of studio to bring you the latest. My name is Betty Kiptum. Do enjoy the rest of your night. Munga.
Well, thank you, Brenda Kiptum, for that. And once again, I'm Richard Munga with the latest in the world of sports. But it goes without saying we have 46 days and less than 21 hours till the 2022 FIFA World Cup. They shall be hosted in Qatar. And as always, KBC, your true sports partner, will be bringing you the matches as well as all the updates in regard to that. But first to tonight's top story, whereby world marathon record holder Eliud Kipchoge, our newly crowned London Marathon champion Amos Kipruto, returned home today. Kipruto, alongside Jocelyn Jepkosgei, who finished second in women's race at the London Marathon, were hosted by Kenya Airways at the Plaza Premier launch at Heathrow Airport before flying home in style at Premier class. Kipchoge recaptured the Berlin title in style, smashing his own record by over 30 seconds in the German capital on September 25th. The 37-year-old Olympic champion clocked 2 hours, 1 minute and 9 seconds, beating his previous world record time of 2 hours, 1 minute and 39 seconds set at the 2018 edition. Kipruto, who had finished second in Tokyo in March behind Kipchoge, clocked 2 hours, 4 minutes and 49 seconds to win the London edition on his debut on Sunday.
Nilimaliza tukaongea na Eliud akaniambia this is a faster course, so I think London is faster course, na nilifurahia tukikimbia, tulikuwa na cheering through the street, so nilifurahia hiyo sana, kwa sababu uwezi sikia ile uchungu ama uwezi kuwa na ile uoga ya kusema nimekuwa peke yangu, lakini kwa sababu kulikuwa na umati wa watu walikuwa na kupatia support all the streets.
Nimalize, nilikuwa kubase but nilipata challenge kidogo juu si kupika mazoezi ya kutosha.
Meanwhile, national women's volleyball team Mboya strikers opposite attacker Sharon Chepchumba has joined Greece side Aris Thessaloniki on a 6-month contract. Meanwhile, the 8th round of the National Motocross Championship will be held this weekend at the Vipingo Ridge, Kilifi County.
Dropped it over. Sharon Chepchumba was left behind after Mboya strikers were abandoned out of the World Championship so as to link up with her new club in Greece. Chepchumba was the top scorer for Kenya at the global showpiece with 66 points. The KCB attacker previously played for Prisons Kenya and Kenya Pipeline. Aris Thessaloniki club plays in Greece Division 2 Volleyball League with a new season set to kick off on 22nd October. Meanwhile, the 8th round of National Motocross Championship will be held this weekend at Vipingo Ridge, Kilifi County. The championship will return to the Coast Province for the first time since 2007. The race is deemed a significant step in creating nationwide participation for the sport. It is estimated that up to 70 riders will participate for the 2-day event And over 500 spectators will watch the action from the sidelines. Former national motocross champion Tobin Rune says the Vipingo track will help grow motocross in Kenya. His sentiments were echoed by Julie Wahome, with chairperson of Motorcycle Commission, who said the new venue is official in motocross racing circuit. King Orimwangi for Channel 1 Sport.
Also, Lieutenant Colonel Mabango emerged the KCB Kenya Air Force Commanders Cup 2022 Division 1 winner following brilliant displays at the Par 71 Great Rift Valley Lodge and Golf Resort course. Smith Muraguri emerged the lady winner with a score of 35 points, playing off handicap 22.
Playing off handicap 19, Lieutenant Colonel Mabango fired 37 Stableford points to beat handicap 20 golfer captain Tororoi on count back. In KDF's Division 2 category, handicap 28 Major Cheboy fired 42 points ahead of Major Machangwa, who garnered 37 points.
It's also important to thank everyone that showed up, because you can also call for an event and people don't show up, especially when they think in African terms that you are a witch, and the fact that you've come in here just shows that we are not in that category. So thank you very much for every person that has participated.
KDF's first 9 honors went to handicap 22 Colonel Owira with a score of 20, while Major Laja shot 21 points to rack up the second 9 prize, much to his credit. Handicap 13 Githinji Mureithi emerged the member winner with a cumulative total of 33, followed by Robin Boyd with 32 points. Shell Smith Muraguri, while runners-up was B. Licha with a score of 34. For Prime Edition Sports, I'm Daniel Mwendwa.
Well, internationally, Leicester City secured their first win of the season after thrashing Nottingham Forest 4-0 to dump their local rivals at the bottom of the Premier League table, as well as pile-pressured manager Steve Cooper. 2 goals from James Maddison and a goal each from Paston Daka and Harvey Barnes.